Hi everyone, I'm back. I'm so sorry. It's taken me 3 weeks to get back to you with my review of the book I've been reading, but I've holiday, stuff at work, life getting in the way, all that jazz. But as I said, after I finished last year's challenge, I did one book a week. I wanted to have a more relaxed time scale, as it were. But I did think it was only going to take me a couple of weeks, but it ended up taking me three. So, but that's life. It gets, happens. But anyway, I'm so glad I took my time to read this book because I loved every single moment of it. And that was Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. Now, just to get you up to speed with my love for Bruce, it goes all the way back through my childhood because my dad was still is, should I say, not was, a massive fan of Bruce Springsteen. He's been a fan of his pretty much since day one, I think, or, pretty early into his career. And of course, then as I was growing up, the albums were always being played in the house or in the car. And I remember there was this period of time my mum worked at a supermarket, and when and she didn't drive, so when she was working, Dad would get me and my sister ready for bed. We'd have a bath and all that lot, and then he'd put on our pajamas and our dressing gowns, and then he'd put us in the car and we'd drive to Mum's work and pick her up. And we always listened to Bruce Springsteen when we sat in the car park. We'd listen to Bruce and sing along to the songs and all that lot. So it was kind of, Bruce has always been there in my family, always has been. Mum and Dad have seen him multiple times in concert. I never have. I did have an opportunity to, but I ducked out. I wasn't able to go. But anyway, I like him. I really do. So when his autobiography came out, my dad bought it straight away and said it was amazing. I wanted to buy it, but I was, doing this, that and the other. So I waited, I think, probably a few weeks or something to buy it. And I wasn't able to read it at the time, but now I have. And I have to say I loved every single moment of it. Now, I just want to read this little passage. It's right near the end of the book. It's not the absolute end, but just to give you an idea of Bruce and how he feels about the writing process of this book and everything. He says, "Writing about yourself is a funny business. At the end of the day, it's just another story, the story you've chosen for the events in your life. I haven't told you all about myself. Discretion and the feelings of others don't allow it, but in a project like this, the writer has made one promise, to show the reader his mind. In these pages, I've tried to do that." So he's saying to you, I'm giving you my life, but I'm not giving you everything. It's my life. I want to keep it here in my heart, in my soul. It's not something to sell, as it were, to you guys. I'll share what I want to share with my fans, with you guys, but there's part of me I want to keep to myself. And fair play to him for that. Now, with Bruce Springsteen, his life, I didn't know a hell of a lot. I knew stuff like his to do with his relationship with his dad, stuff to do with obviously development of the E Street band and everything. His great love for Clarence, his bandmates, who is my favourite member of E Street. He became like his brother. But I didn't know a massive amount of stuff. So reading this book was a real eye-opener about this man. And one thing I absolutely adore about this is his honesty. He doesn't sugarcoat stuff. He just says, like, we went to this, we did that, da 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 da. But he does it with such beauty and grace. It's intoxicating to read, and I adored every single moment I had to read this. I was like really frustrated when I had to get off the bus to go to work, or I had to, when I was on my lunch break, when I had to leave to go back to my desk or something like that, because I just wanted it to carry on. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. He is very open and honest about many things. It was something about his life I sort of knew of, but it never really registered, and that was his issues with depression. I didn't know until I read this, like he's been on antidepressants for like 15 odd years. But I love the fact that he said that because of his dad, they didn't know at the time, has schizophrenia, and he used alcohol to calm himself, or to get him through, and Bruce saw that as a child, and so he promised himself, I'm not going to be that way, I'm not going to do that. So he never did the getting really wasted all the time. He did have a drink. He didn't have his first drink until he was 22, and he does drink, but he doesn't do it excessively at all. He never did. He's never does drugs, obviously, apart from the antidepressants that he's on. He doesn't go there. He doesn't do partying. And there's this great sequence where he gets, at one point, where he gets invited to the Playboy Mansion, and he says no, and his friends are going, "Are you insane? You could play at the Playboy Mansion, that's amazing." And he's like, "Yes, but if I do that, then I'm going to be neglecting my time in the studio for my music. My music is my key, my thing that gets me going. So if I neglect that, what am I?" It's, music has always been full first for him. I love him talking about the adrenaline of concerts and meeting fans, how he's very in touch with nature. I always thought he was, from his lyrics and that, but when he talks about it, it's so deep. It's really in his soul, and even like little things like this special park bench in New York where he proposed to his wife Patty, it was their place to go all the time, and it's just a bench under a tree in the middle of New York, but the way that he describes it, it's so beautiful. You can tell it's very special to him. He's also I love the fact that he likes to talk about the way that he describes people and talks about people, and then completely, if they conform a stereotype, he completely smashes that stereotype. He was a big rough man, big long beard and quite a snarly face, but the gentlest person that you'll ever meet, and all this lot. And especially his love for his mother and his sisters just shines through the pages of this book, and of course Patty and his kids and everything. Talking about how was it like becoming a parent and such, and turbulence of life, and little quirky stories that you wouldn't think, reading a musician's biography, or autobiography should I say, little stories that you wouldn't think would make a difference, or you question why are they even there, but they're huge to Bruce. I mean, like little things, like there's a really beautiful sequence of Jessie, his daughter and second child, when she first got on a horse, and you think, it's a cute little story, yeah. And she's a really great horsewoman. She's an athlete and everything. She adores horses. So, and fabulous stuff of him. There was a really beautiful, and I just beamed when I read it. A sequence where he was sat with his daughter Jessie at a concert, Lady Gaga concert, and a woman next to him, about his age or a bit older or something, turned to him and said, "Oh, is that your daughter?" And he said, "Yeah, it is." And then she pointed to Lady Gaga and went, "That one's mine." And it's just little things like that. How he talks about all of this music, the meeting his idols, all of these songs of his past, and how how it fuels him, how it helps him, and even the music that his children have introduced into, and how that has influenced him going on. He's just a wonderful person, and I think, especially because the way that he's written this, it is so beautiful, eloquent, poetic, but at the same time it feels like you just sat at a bar and you sat right next to you and you're having a really pleasant chat. And yeah, he's telling you things, and some really dark stuff, but he's putting his light and air into it, you know, kind of like the really weighty stuff about his dad. You know, he says about it like you know, some really kind of pretty dark stuff, but then it's got a really light sense of humour to it. And he goes, well, that was Dad. That was who he was. That we didn't know at the time that he was ill. We just thought he was just the way he was. He's very down to earth. Very down to earth. He never is he like a really demanding person. But as you said, near the end of the book, when he talks about bringing on a new person into the group, and he says, oh, I sort of know the sequences you want me to perform, but he's like, I'm sorry, sort of. And he says to him, you are coming into this massive thing, this legendary thing, taking place, taking you know, a spot of somebody who cannot possibly be replaced in our hearts and in all of our fans' hearts, and you have to make it your own, and you sort of know what the piece is. How dare you? You know, that's the only time he kind of well, not a dark side, I was going to say, but shows a kind of darker side to him. But in a sense, it's not a darker side. He's just saying, he's being upfront and saying, this is the reality of this situation. And it's his career. This band is his baby. It's his, you know, he's got so much love for it, and he's not going to see it fall apart. So, and that band member went away for a couple of days, came back and said, right, I've nailed every single one. Like, right. Good, let's go then. You know, he's such a lovely guy, and I think you can see that the way that he treats his fans, and he especially talks a lot about safety of fans and such in stadiums and that in this, especially when he talks about when he started doing proper, you know, touring and everything. And there was one where it was soaking wet and there was mud everywhere and people were falling over and they get crushed up, you know, against the bars, and he was really panicked. He was really terrified that something was going to happen, and he says how he makes sure, you know, safety control and all that lot. It made me laugh. It really, I just got so engrossed in it, and it had me last night. I finished it last night, and I was absolutely bawling my eyes out because of Clarence. Clarence is in the E Street Band. As said, you know, before, he's like Bruce's brother. They were so close. He was an amazing saxophone player, and very sadly, he passed away in 2009 now. He was my favourite member of the E Street Band. When it was announced he'd had a stroke, I cried. Then when he passed away a week later, which was on my birthday, so that wasn't a nice birthday, I really cried. I was devastated when he died. And you know, it felt kind of like a light had gone out a bit. You know, it was, you know, really sad that day. I really remember that. But yeah, when Bruce talks about him and when he dies in the book, I was a wreck last night. I was really sad. But at the same time, he speaks about him so beautifully, and how numb he felt afterwards, and how it triggered him to go into kind of a different stage of his depression and such, but he was managed to get the help that he needed to pull himself back and celebrate Clarence for everything that he did with them. And he'll always be his brother. He'll always, they distinctly, and you see it in the concerts and that, Clarence had his own section, because they all have, you know, certain positions on stage, and they kind of pretty much stayed in that throughout their time. Sometimes they shifted it back, but Clarence had a specific spot right next to Bruce, and after he died, that spot has never been filled. They always leave that section of the stage for out of respect for Clarence, and you know, it's amazing. And I have to say, the amazing thing about Bruce as well is that when he got ill with his depression and such, he knew that there was something wrong. And rather than, he did give it a little time to try and figure out what he thought it was, before he got help. But he knew there was something wrong, and he called up, various people and everything, and said, there is something wrong here, I need help. And he got the help that he needed, rather than, like you said, I've watched other people in the business go down the route of taking drugs or drinking. But because of this whole thing of my childhood of watching my dad deal with schizophrenia when we didn't know it was schizophrenia, and how he used alcohol to help him, I didn't want to become that person, so I moved as far away from drugs and alcohol as I possibly could in order to stay me. I didn't want to lose me, I didn't want to lose that connection. And that was how I needed help, and I reached out and said, please help me, and I got the help I needed. And talking about even what it was like to cry at his therapist's office, and how he hadn't really cried, and then he did, and what that meant to him. It was this read is well, I think one of my favourite autobiographies I've ever read. He is so open and honest and good and kind and direct, and he tells you what the business was like, when he started. He tells you what it's like now. He talks about what it means to have a family, what it means to be a working parent, and and having to juggle everything else, even to the degree that his children had no idea about his career. It was only when he went to a concert with his eldest son, and a guy recognised him and showed him that he had a tattoo of his face on the whole of his upper arm, did his son realise that, oh my God, my dad actually, does something that people recognise him for. So, it was a joy to read about the life of a man who just went for his dream and succeeded. And he addresses people who are in the music business at the moment, people who want to be musicians, and says, okay, look, I worked my ass off. I still work my ass off. I got lucky. I have to say that, and for a lot of people in the music industry, it is the exact same thing. But if it's your dream, then go for it. Because if I didn't go for it, I wouldn't be sat here now. I wouldn't, have my wife and kids. I wouldn't have this amazing career. I wouldn't have gone to all of these amazing countries around the world and met so many people, and everything. So he's such a humble guy. He doesn't, the only thing I was going to say, he doesn't brag about money that he's earned and everything, how he's, a multi-millionaire and all that lot. He very rarely mentions it, but he does mention the cars that he buys. I think he mentions like 5 or 6 cars or something through the sequence of the book, and occasionally he says how they moved house, they bought a new house or whatever. But that's really it. He doesn't. Oh no, sorry. And he buys guitars. They're the 3 things: houses, cars, and guitars. They're the only things that he mentions buying with his money that he earns, from his records and everything. He's very humble, and I just absolutely adore him. I think it's amazing, and I feel like I understand him more. And I was listening to his records as I was reading it in the sequence that, obviously, his career, that he charts in it, and I understand more of his lyrics now. And he likes to talk like songs, and looks at chunks of them. He goes line by line. Okay, this is what this means. This is what that means, and what I was trying to explore. And I understand now, because of what was going on in his life at that moment, why he wrote that song, and then going forward and everything. Yeah, I mean, I always knew The Rising was about September 11th. Everybody knows that, who were, fans of his and everything. But when it's that thing that those songs have always gotten to me, because, it gets in your gut because of that event. But when you read about what he witnessed that day and how he just suddenly had to start writing, and he dropped the work that he was doing because he'd already sort of developed an album and was getting ready to record it. And he just went, no, stop that, stop! We have to do this now. And a fan they were driving wound down the window that day or the next day and yelled out to him, Bruce, we need you now, help us. He knew he had to do it, so he did it, and it helped people. It really helps people. He's very conflicted as well about his thoughts on war and the Vietnam War, especially with losing friends and such. I love the story of him getting out of having to serve. Him and his friends came up with a plan to make sure they didn't pass, but he didn't pass anyway, so it didn't matter. But yeah, and then losing friends and how that affects him, and it still sticks with him, and what he's done to help various organisations and charities over the years to help soldiers and such in America. He's just, I love him. He's such an amazing person. And yeah, I can't think of anything else any more to say than that. This is so beautifully written, so elegant, so funny, so sad, so tragic, so uplifting, so joyous. It goes through every emotion that there is, and I'm not going to be putting this in a charity bag or two shot into. This is going to stay on my bookshelf. I adored it. He's so open and honest about everything. Life, death, all the questions that people have that he's had, nature, life in general, and I love and respect him for everything that he's ever done, and I adore him even more, and that's all I can think of to say. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. So, I think I'm going to end there. If you read this book, I'd love to know what you thought. You can leave me a comment in the comments box below. You can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you prefer to show what you think that way. It's entirely up to you. I'll let you decide. And I'll be back soon with the announcement of what the next book is I'm going to be reading, which should be fiction. And there are a few books that I bought on my holiday, which I'll be showing up in that video as well, which will be going into the jars. Alright then, guys. Bye!